I am Denitsa Todorova. I am originally from Bulgaria. I came in Belgium in, I think, 2005 to study in the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Antwerp, and I stayed. The drawing with pencil and the graphites, and I really started to draw, and I really switched to the whole complete medium. Which actually slowly developed from just a classical way of drawing to this technique, which I kind of, I don't know what kind of words to use, maybe created or invented myself. And what is really specific about it is that I start from completely black. I take a sheet of paper, I make a graphite powder myself, and then very simple, I rub the graphite inside. And my very first inspiration as well, I said this many times, it's the technique in sculpture called graffito, where you put a few layers on the top of each other and you dig into it to create the image. So this is a bit like my reading of graffito on paper. So that was the very first initial inspiration and process. I am very much interested in constantly looking in contemporary art and going to all the exhibitions and fairs, and I see different feelings or trends. Of course, next to the masters. Yeah, sometimes there are artists that give me a sparkle. Talking about drawings, for example, just yesterday I was thinking about the drawings of Kiki Smith with the pencil and all this. I think there is always unconscious influence in a way, but I would not say it's very particular. I mostly collect my inspirations from very banal things on the first look, daily phenomena, things that surround us from nature. Often, I think there are subjects that always stays the same. For example, like eternity or things without beginning and without end. But it also changes because over these 10 years, there are different directions or which are related on my life experiences or how I feel. Recently, I was in an arts in residence in Spain, Arteventura, and that residency, for example, was in a national park, but it was extremely isolated. It was on the top of a hill, and it was only nature and no people. Like, for example, that was very confronting. Make me think about also natural eternity, things that I'm very much interested in things that would always stay there, that are not connected to the human being influences. For example, like the reflection of the water or the change of season or the change of the day and the night. And a lot about light. It's really important for me. That's maybe something because I studied before stage design. I studied stage design for 3-4 years. And in theater, the theater is one black box, and things start to happen there when there is light, when the light goes on. And in a way, for me, this is the same with my drawings, because often people say that my drawings are about the black and the dark, but actually it's totally the other way around. They're really about looking for a light and looking to bring light to the viewer. But the process itself, it's actually very traditional, because the images looks very abstract, and often people think that it's probably the image comes by accident or by just by a thought. But I always, mostly like 99%, I take image myself of something that I see with my phone and I print it. Or recently, I'm shifting a little bit to more realistic elements sometimes. So I, for example, now in the recent series, I take lots of images from religious or historical laces, fabric like. I was on trip in Italy, and in the Catholic churches there are lots of laces, and that was kind of triggered me, the beauty of it, but also the idea of depth of it. So it's always taking images like that, and then I actually first make as well lots of sketches, like really fast, that are mostly realistic. And then when the paper is black, I kind of transfer this drawing on the top of it, or I just look from the image and I start to erase. So the base is always something very realistic. I have a very clear image when I start. For example, some of those works are like took an image of a firework or from these laces, or so it's very clear what direction we'll take. When I saw the house for the first time, I was very impressed. I mean, it's very impressive historically. What like struck me, and I felt really inspired by that, was also the way the house was restorated, partially restorated. Or there are parts which the history was shown next to how more modern people live there. And I felt immediately this attraction with the layers, because this is like, my work is about layers, and in my work I also very often implement structures under the first layer of drawing, colors that appear and disappear. And when I was walking through the house like a few times, I really felt this, I mean, the way the house was living is exactly the same life of the structure of my work. And actually when I was there, and I also, like, all the works in this exhibition are new. So I made everything for that show. And I had really the time to think, how can I communicate with that? But I was already surprised and inspired that it is the same. The structure of my work is the same as the structure of the house. And I was already also a little bit interested in this realistic vibe, which I think can be related a little bit to the house. So in a way, I think this exhibition would be also a little bit new for me, because I would bring some realistic moments in some drawings. But what I also wanted to do, because last year was there was one very special moment for me. It was, I had a first time solo exhibition in Bulgaria, in Sarajevo Gallery. And it was strange because it was just exactly 20 years I lived in Bulgaria, and 20 years I lived in Belgium. So it was just exactly in the middle of my life. And I had this solo exhibition in the gallery in my hometown. And then I also made a series of drawings which were a little bit like my alphabets of, how can I say it, like my alphabet of science that I went through the years. For example, I'm extremely fascinated by the idea of circle, and because it's something without beginning and without end, and circles are always like appearing in my work. So yeah, here I was also thinking about the House of Queens and thinking about all of this history. And then I said that it's also, for me, challenging to go to my own history of work, and to like, why not I make again some of these works that really inspire me or fascinate me, or use again the same inspiration, like Spiro, for example. That's it's something that shows the eternity. Because yeah, I think that subjects of history, eternity are very much connected as well with the house. And of course, the house is not a white cube. So that was also like a really big challenge to integrate and have dialogue with the space. And I really love that. It's like, it's a whole another universe. Yeah, it's like the work would have a dialogue with that history of the house. So the idea was to have a duo exhibition. It was a very spontaneous thought, but when I was standing there, I thought it was right, and I said I would love to invite Mark Marunst, who is a choreographer, but he also in his practice worked very often with artists. For example, he used my work for a poster and invitation of one of his shows called Drawings. And he did organize, together with Kathleen Vink, numerous of times during Antwerp Art Weekend, like art festival for a weekend, where my work was also showed. So I had this very warm connection with him, and I really admire his work and very site-specific approach to dance and music and art. So at that moment it was like a blend for me. I was not sure if he would accept it, and he was very interested, and we talked a lot about it because he was also not exactly sure how we would do show, we would collaborate, like what it would be. So there would be a performance with the dancer from a piece that he created. And there would be one other video, which is very exhibited, which will be very focused on the human being body. And this was for me another aspect, I think. When this was decided, there was another image I could relay on, besides the history and my own history. And that was a challenge for me as well, because like I think that in this last half a year more, I've been thinking how to transfer my work in a more realistic way. And here it's like also mirroring with the human being body, the dance, the performance. And I think the dynamic of my work, the lights, but also these more realistic moments now in the work, would communicate as well. So it's blending in a different aspects for me. Truly, honestly, I don't consider my work as a drawing, because for me it starts like some kind of a childish game or a play. Like there's an enormous extreme physical tension and energy to make everything black and to take it away, especially to make it black. So especially for the very big scales, it's a little bit like a performance with my body. So I just make a work with very simple materials, like a piece of paper, a graphite powder. It's very physical. I do it with my hands, and then I scrape away, I erase. It also sometimes makes me think and like the cave drawings, like people are just scratching, and sometimes there's so much energy, and that sometimes it feels, oh, this is maybe like a performance. So the physical, it's extremely present, but also there is this super strong concentration. Yeah, so I think that sometimes I hope, or I believe it's like that my focus, my concentration goes to the work, and that's mirroring the viewer and all of this energy behind. So it's hard to explain to when you see the final drawing, what is it behind. And also often people think that it's a print or it's a photography. So the real labor, it's not always visible in that sense. So generally my work is a very slow work. It's not a work that will immediately tell you what is it. It needs the time to look at it and to absorb that image. And I always see that people just like, they have to stop and they have to absorb it.